Replacement companies are lying to you. Their profits are not built on solutions. Their profits are built on selling you windows you may not need. Today, we'll show you how Fenster can change your perspective on window replacement. Hello, everyone. This is Ryan, the Sash Guy from Fenster Components. I'm here today with Jason, our delivery driver. And we're going to be talking today about why wouldn't you repair your windows if it saved you time and money? You know, most people think replacement is their only option, but actually we believe that there's a better way. I'm going to go ahead and make a strong claim that a lot of window replacement companies are lying to you about what your options are. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what those other options are and how Fenster can be of help to you. Jason, you know, you're our delivery driver. You're the man on the street, the boots on the ground.
The face of the company,
right?
if you will.
Right. So, you know, why don't you get the conversation started?
Yeah, no, that is quite an opening.
Start somewhere.
So, you know, it's a incredibly bold statement to make that everybody else that's in the industry that's selling new windows, what's untruthful about what they're doing or how they're doing it?
Well, the biggest thing is they're not offering a repair option. And the way you've got to think about that is it's a combination of ignorance that they don't even know that the repair option exists because they haven't researched those available products. The more misleading part of that is, see, their profits are built into, you know, they're not trying to solve the customer's problem. Okay, they're trying to make money off of overinflated, you know, remodeling job or something like that. So, you know, part of it is some to their discredit and others just to the ignorance. I mean, you know, they don't know that those options are available.
Well, yeah, before I started working for you, I had no idea that you could replace a window sash.
Sure.
Or that you could do any of that. I thought it was just, you rip them out and put a new one in.
Right. You know, and another thing too is there's a lot of window salespeople that don't know anything about windows. And that's kind of there's a lot of people who are very knowledgeable, and, you know, I don't want to take away from their credibility, but I've met a lot of window replacement salespeople that have gone through some training program, right? They're not well versed in window terminology or the industry, or, you know, we talk about a lot of legacy brands that we represent. You know, a lot of what we do and what we add to the industry, see, these are all window brands that have long since gone out of business, right?
Okay.
So, you know, we've come up to make the templates, and we've, you know, done our own replicated versions of an aftermarket product. But see, all these companies have long since gone out of business. So you have the new replacement companies. The industry as a whole is really forward thinking, right? They don't want to have to worry about the product that they made 20 years ago. And dare I say, that's the out on a lot of long-term window warranties. Well, that's got a lifetime warranty on it. Well, there's 3 pages of fine print that no one ever reads, right? You know, where you sign away on the waiver. You know, the family was on vacation last week, and, you know, we rented a boat, and, you know, the kids were like, "Did you read this?" I'm like, Who reads that? You know, who reads the waiver, right? You know, just fine it. You know, we're not going to sue you if we jump off the boat or something. You know, you don't read that fine print in those warranties. So that's how a lot of them get away from that, is like, oh, well, we stopped making that window 4 years ago, so we have no way of honoring that warranty because we don't make that model of window anymore.
Okay.
So, you know, so that's where we really have picked up on that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you've been doing this for a while. How did you come to realize that this product had a need in the marketplace? And, like, how did you even come up with the fact that, I mean, were they building replacement sashes before you?
No. And so, yeah, let me kind of get into, kind of how the idea evolved and, where it's kind of progressed over 25 years in business, now second generation, family owned business. So it's like, we've had a lot of time to figure this out, and we had a lot of time to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So yeah, let me go back to the beginning and kind of start there. So I do consider myself a bit of a pioneer. We're based out of the Indianapolis area, and, I moved here right after college, and I've raised my family here, and it ended up not necessarily being the dream place to live, other than it kind of evolved into, we're about as centrally located in the country as we could be to gain, nationwide distribution, which of course you have to drive, so that's your part of the show, right? Is that nationwide distribution. So you know what I'm talking about. It really ended up being the prime location to build this business as it exists today. So let me go back, we're talking summer of 2000 now. I mean, plus 25 years ago. I had worked for a local home builder here in the Indianapolis area that used a lot of wood window products in the 80s and 90s, right? And fresh out of college, actually, I went to school to be a dentist. I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Graduated from Ball State with a biology degree and couldn't get into dental school. And I was done with school, graduated, ready to move on. I had actually started my first remodeling company when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were, doing smaller projects, and anyway, not part of the story. So I got on framing for local home builder, and then I quickly worked up into their warranty department. Well, year or so in, I kind of became a area manager where I oversaw several different communities. But part of that responsibility in that job was investigating out of warranty issues. So, back then you had a 1-year warranty on a house, right?
Right.
And then you kind of took responsibility for certain things, and then you moved on. All right. Right. So we had started at that point in the history of that company, we had started seeing a variety of issues come in with rotten windows, right? And it was the builder's due diligence to follow through on a lot of that stuff. And we had gotten those particular manufacturers involved. Well, there was a 1-year warranty on a wood window product even back then. That was it. That was it. Of course, none of them were going to open that can of worms, and from my perspective, there were a lot of windows that I looked at. I'm like, folks, it's a brand new house. I get it, but you still have to take care of it. Not a lick of paint on them, and, no maintenance at all. That's part of, you didn't take care of them.
They should have probably still. Yeah.
No one told you how to take care of them either. I get that part of it. But the people that I really had some sympathy for were, I looked at some, guys who were really taking care of their house, and the windows are still going bad. I don't want to get too far off topic, but it's probably notable to say that there was a turn in the industry in the early 80s where, like all the additives that they could dip the wood into, and that like creosote and stuff like that, window products or home building products, they were soaked alongside railroad ties, right? Horrible stuff, but windows didn't go bad. You didn't have the rotting issues and the failure issues that old growth lumber had. You had a lot of new species of lumber coming into the market. They had to grow it fast and turn it fast. So a lot of those factors played into the quality of the products coming out in the 80s and early 90s. They were kind of going organic, away from the chemicals. Exactly. And a lot of the chemical companies had to play catch up because they had to develop new treatment chemicals that, the EPA would accept and all that kind of stuff. So
like a perfect storm of newer species of wood, change to chemicals, change to preservatives.
Yep.
Okay. So okay.
Exactly.
Got it. Makes sense.
Exactly. So that played into a lot of why the industry saw such an uptick in wood window failure through that time frame. No one's going to open that can of worms, right?
No,
right. The manufacturers aren't going to talk about that. The home builder wasn't going to talk about that, But that's when I'm like,
What if?
There's got to be a better way, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Hey, Shark Tank, right? I missed out. So that's where that idea came from. That there's got to be a way to fix these. I kind of came from a carpentry background. My father was a fireman, but he was part-time carpenter and did a bunch of stuff like that. And the joke in my family is, we're all carpenter musicians. That we can't hit a baseball to save our lives, but give us an instrument or a piece of wood, we know what to do with it, right?
The world needs ditch diggers too, Danny.
Right. So I just kind of had that. I kind of had that skill, kind of that came naturally.
You knew how to work with your hands, and you were, problem solving.
And there were a lot of internal company politics for the company that I worked for at the time. That just those entrepreneurial juices just started to flow. Right. I'm like, okay, how do I take this idea and put it together with this? And ultimately, when I left that company, I was a handyman of sorts. I didn't have any employees, so I built decks and screen porches, stuff that I could do by myself. But I had a lot of ties in with the management, the guys out in the field.
Okay.
So they're like, oh, hey, we've got this guy that can do this or whatever. So I would get a lead, be working on something, and then man, there'd be that rotten window on the side of that house, and I get to investigating that and looking at that, and so I just took a chance on a couple jobs. Tim Burns, if you ever see this, you're the guy that let me get away with this. Tore windows out of this guy's house, and
double hungs or casements?
They were double hungs.
Okay,
they were double hungs, but I just figured it out. It's 9 o'clock at night, dark, and I've got this guy's window laying in the yard. Like, how do I?
Or you were trying to rebuild it there on site?
I'm trying to rebuild it. Got it back together because I was figuring everything out.
Yeah.
Then scratch. Wasn't pre-making anything at that time. So that whole idea really evolved into, man, I see these parts over and over and over again, and I see these again. So as that kind of developed and I worked my way away from the remodeling handyman side of it to just focus on windows, it got to the point where now I could start mass producing components because there was a switch to being custom to be more universal fit, which is a lot of, like our double hung product, it's made to work with a lot of stuff, right? So parts and pieces back then, I kind of developed a universal fit model to where, I was still working from home, built a shop onto my house, and I could mass produce parts over the winter time.
Were you just replacing the rotten part, or were you making a whole new set of glass and a whole new
So it was a piece by piece type of thing. So then I developed a system where I could replace the parts without tearing the window out, which is the whole culmination of what we're doing today from 25 years ago. How do you repair them without having to tear them out, right? So that really evolved into more of like a mass production to kind of now take us forward to, started hiring people, started growing the company, had multiple crews just here within the Indianapolis area. But then 2008, I had an opportunity to buy one of my suppliers. It was a small one-man show that he was running parts and components for us. Well, it turns out, we were kind of one of his only customers, and we weren't buying enough to keep the guy going. So worked it out. I bought his equipment, bought his customer base and said, hey, I need somebody to run all this stuff. So, we brought all of our manufacturing in-house at that point. Okay. And that's really where the Fenster model, really took hold, because now we're not farming anything out. All manufacturing was done in-house. That's where the Sash replication process really started to take hold, because that I could see that really became the foothold of what the future of the company was going to be. And, coming full circle.
Instead of repairing sashes, making sashes?
Yeah. Instead of trying to repair the bad parts on them and putting them back in. No, it makes way more sense. New glass, new frame, new weather stripping.
Yeah. Plus, you had the advancements of technology. The glass was better. The sealants were better. The seals were better. The adhesive was better.
Exactly.
So, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, we were allowed to evolve as the technology evolved, right? So there was a switch there in about 2012. That original company that was local to Central Indiana, we had opened up a couple other locations in the Midwest. I had sold that part of the business just so I could focus on the manufacturing side. So that was really the time where we transitioned from, more of a local, Central Indiana company to now we're engaging with a nationwide audience.
Thank God for the internet.
Right? I mean, that's what it was.
Right.
That's what it was. Yeah. So now we've gained some nationwide recognition, right? Our marketing people are working really hard to grow that notoriety and that visibility within the market. So I mean, so that takes us up to present day, to where now, since you've been with the company, we've been able to expand to the West Coast, have seen, huge strides in volume and volume of orders coming out of particularly the Southeast, huge market for our double hung product, going to the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, that area of the country. So, now I kind of feel like, we really have our stuff figured out. I think from the product standpoint, we're going to talk about product particulars down the road in another episode, but where I kind of wanted to switch that is now, how do we dig at the industry a little bit more, right? And how do we, I kind of want to do a twofold of, one, I don't know that there's a lack of respect, but I think in the big grand scheme of the window industry, there's people out there that know who we are.
Sure.
We have a loose, unofficial relationship with Geldwin because we have replicated so many of their legacy brands, but there's no formal
business interest.
Yeah, there's no formal connection there. We have their blessing.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. We have their blessing to do what we're doing, and we refer us a lot of business. But I think more can be said for some other manufacturers that don't see us as an opportunity to provide that service to their former customers. There's some that just flat out don't want to be involved with that. But I think more can be done. That I think there could be some other manufacturers out there that say, "Hey,
you're taking the thorn out of our side for all of our warranty requests."
Right? Exactly.
They don't have to stockpile legacy windows. They don't have to keep machines open. They just say, you know what? We run all of our warranties through Fenster. They'll send you a new sash.
Right. So, and when you look at it from that perspective, why wouldn't you do that? Seems like a win-win for everybody. The customer wins, they win, we win.
Absolutely.
Right? So part of the new initiative and really, I think, the core of why we're starting these conversations is to kind of bring that awareness to, hey, this works,
Yeah. Well, I think I hear what you're saying, but it's almost like throughout 25 years of doing this, you've obviously figured out how to do it, how to make them work, how to be a great option.
Yeah.
We just need more people to realize this option exists.
Right.
And maybe our enemy in that category is window replacement companies.
Well, yeah. Because they're not putting that repair option in front of their client. And that was really one of the, motivations, or one of the angles from the start was, okay, use us as another option. You've paid for the lead. Don't let the lead walk away because you didn't have something else to offer them that fit in their budget or made more sense to them. The success that we've achieved to date are for the people who get it. They're like, well, there's got to be a way to repair these instead of tearing them all out and starting over. And you see that all the time
firsthand.
You have those conversations.
Well, people say, well, look at this. I've repaired this thing 17 times over the last 5 years, because I didn't know you guys existed.
Right.
I didn't know it was an option. So they're tickled to death when they finally found us, and they realized, oh God, I can quit messing around with trying to fix this thing with wood putty and everything else under the sun, trying to keep it together.
Right. The easy thing to say is those are our happiest customers.
Absolutely.
They didn't take any convincing.
No.
They knew it was a good idea from the start. So what we're trying to achieve now, I think, is, getting in front of a larger audience that, hey, there's some, and I don't want to say we're the perfect fit for everybody. No. I'm not saying, and I'm going to go ahead and say not all windows can be repaired. Okay. There's certainly, issues there that our product doesn't solve, which we can talk about later on down the line. But, that they weren't given that option as a repair. So, that's kind of what we're fighting against is, okay, replacement is an option, but repair is also an option too. The replacement company isn't giving them that option to where, like I said earlier, that, if they used us as okay, well, I really want to sell you 6 figures worth of all new windows, so you're not going to bite on that. So, hey, I could do all new sashes in your house for a third of the price.
What's a sash?
Yeah, right. So parts and pieces are a bit, well, that's what I said earlier. Does the window replacement company even know what the sash is?
Yeah,
right.
True.
Right. Because I've talked to some people that don't.
Right.
That like,
a window's a window.
You're in the window industry and you don't know what a sash is. Okay, never mind. So bringing that awareness to, hopefully not excluding the contractor side of things or the window replacement, using us as another product source.
Yeah.
In that, in that sales process.
Quick myth to bust. A lot of homeowners believe a failing window means a full replacement. That's not true. Here's the math. A contractor quote for full replacement can run over $1,200 a window. Most of the time, the frame in your wall is fine. It's the sash that failed, and that's the only thing Fenster Components builds. It costs 50 to 70% less, ships to your door, and most people install it themselves with tools they already own. And if you're thinking your window brand is too old or too discontinued for anyone to match, that's not true. Fenster's built replacement sashes for discontinued brands for 25 years. So if you're ready, start your quote today at fensterusa.com.
Something very important, the insurance industry. Okay. We could be the biggest thing since sliced bread to the insurance industry for hail damage.
Oh, okay.
And that has been such an uphill struggle. And again, it's another ignorance and just get out of your own way for the insurance industry because one, they're not researching, because I'm like, it's cringeworthy to say that this is a new idea. We've been doing it 25 years. Right. We know it works. It's worked for thousands of customers for a quarter century, right? But the innocent ignorance. I'm not saying that as a put down, but the ignorance.
They're unaware.
They're unaware. They're unaware that we exist. Right. Because, we don't really have any competition. We're alone on an island yelling as loud as we can, again, purposes for, what we're trying to accomplish in these conversations is, hey, we're talking about this stuff. This stuff is real. It's happening. So the ignorance there and just the red tape.
If I'm a homeowner and I've suffered hail damage, I would imagine the process goes, you've got an adjuster that comes out and says, yes, you've got this, that, and this. Is it the insurance company's job then to coordinate repair, or do they just give you a check and say, Mr. or Mrs. Fenster, here's your
that's
or did the insurance company not agree that this is a suitable solution?
That's the red tape.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the red tape, right?
Gotcha.
So it's a combination of all of that. You've got insurance. The insurance companies have their list of rules and regulations that they're going by. It's kind of a fit, form, and function type of, umbrella that they have to meet and originally those parameters were put in place to protect the insured, protect the homeowner, right? And it was more of the insurance company protecting the insured from crooked contractor or someone trying to be shady or whatever. Right. Dare I say this out loud? It's flipped the other way. It's the contractor, and I'm not saying all of them.
Right.
The few make it wrong for the many, right?
Right.
The overinflated bid, I've seen them. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So I have been thrown to the wolves so many times, Jason, in these scenarios where I do get a claims adjuster or, a claims manager that knows of us, that has found us. There's got to be a way to fix it, where they send me out as a consultant. Well, we want you to look at them. We want you to inspect them. Tell us what you can do. Tell us what you can't do. And here comes the homeowner's contractor who's already put in their bid. Oh. See, they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose their bid on that job.
Right.
Because
they've already quoted to rip them all the way out.
He's pulled up in his $100,000 pickup with his $50,000 boat on the back of it on the way to the lake, so he can throw me under the bus. Right.
That would never work.
That never works. That never works. That can't happen. I'm like, I'm standing right here. Got the clipboards.
Right.
Here's my I carry sample. It doesn't work. Here's one.
Right.
Right. And I'm the bad guy because I'm there representing the insurance company now. And see, the contractor's already gotten in the homeowner's
So they've played
ear.
you as the insurance man that's trying to go the cheap way.
Yeah. Right? No, it's the insurance company cutting corners and they're doing it. I'm like, and I'm just like,
that sucks.
And I'm just like, they're going to Swiss cheese your house, because of, and it can be boom, 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 boom.
We'd have this done this afternoon.
Yeah. Your whole house, the whole house could be done in a day when you didn't even know what happened. Done. Gone, didn't even take the drapes down, and sashes are changed out. So, again, we took another 10 minutes to have that part of the conversation, but, talk about a soapbox for the Sash Guy to get on, right?
Yeah.
And that, again, a win-win-win for everybody. The contractor, the insurance provider wins because they're doing what's necessary.
Yep.
Okay. But they're providing a professional repair that solves the homeowner's problem. You got the contractor installer who is, could potentially mark up the product and charging for install. And I've been in the contracting world, way less headache.
Right.
You want to come in and just bolt some sashes in versus all the other work that, again, I understand the difference in the profit margins. I get that part of it.
For sure.
But again, if you're not, we are so customer focused and so solutions providing to our customers. See, we just take all that other garbage out of it. Like, this is so quick. This is so easy. That's why we're so DIYer friendly. We can teach you to do it yourself. But if these other industries, these other companies could buy into how this whole thing works, everybody wins. Yeah. Everybody wins. And that's such a big point to get across. But unfortunate the world that we live in, that.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I know how I answer this question when I'm delivering to somebody, but I'm curious how you would answer it. When somebody says, "Man, I hope you guys know what you're doing. I hope these work," and I say, "Well, we've done it tens of thousands of times.
Yeah,
you're unique to us as you're special to us, but your problem isn't unique to us.
Right?
We see this every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes they say, "Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. What's going to get said when I normally say, amongst us, what do you think we've been doing for 25 years?
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I that used to, I don't get upset at that anymore. I used to, that used to upset me. Like, what do you think we're doing over here? Right. Like, no, Mr. and Mrs. You're the first order ever.
You're guinea pig.
Yeah. You're the first Cradco we've ever made. Like, no, you're the 50,000th Cradco we've made. And I know we're doing things different. Okay. Nobody is selling online direct to the customer like we are. We're a different kind of company. Yep. Our process is different. And I get that part of it. And there's some apprehension, but I'm like, do you call Amazon when you order toilet paper?
Well, that's not a capital expenditure.
Well, I'm just saying that.
And you get it, and I get it as a consumer. If I was going to make a $10,000 order without ever having shaken your hand or seen your product, that's a leap of faith. I get it.
I get that, but I'll use this analogy that I bought a new car this past fall.
Okay.
Bought a Cadillac. I equate that to, I didn't walk into the dealership and say, "Hey, GM, after 100 years in business, do you still know how to build Cadillacs?" I don't have that question. So that's where I struggle. I struggle as a salesperson to kind of bridge that gap of where's that lack of buyer confidence, and that's, and like I said, you see that,
Sure.
you see, I certainly have conversations with a fair share of customers.
Right.
A lot of that is done online, through emailing and whatnot, but whether it be in writing or face-to-face or in person, that's has always been like a core hurdle for us to get over, is like, and maybe, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, can you think of an example, of where you met a customer that said, "Yeah, I wasn't too sure about this." And I don't.
It's every week you hear somebody, and it's, "Man, I'm so glad I found you guys. I really hope you work. I'm just doing a test drive." And it's every week there's somebody that falls into that category. And I say, "Well, I understand. You've done the right thing by purchasing one as a test. I'm sure that they're going to work out for you, and I'm going to be back here in a few months with the whole delivery order for you." And they say, "Well, I hope that's the case." And I say, "Well, I'm pretty certain it will be."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it happens regularly. And to really touch on that buyer confidence, speaking for myself, for Ellie in the front office, we have so much due diligence built into our sales process.
Yes.
Right? That we don't want to make them twice.
No.
We can't afford to make them twice. We don't have time to make them twice. We want it right the first time, just as much as the customer does.
Right.
So much, again, I will go ahead and say the order issues we have, It's when a part of that process wasn't followed, or
Sure.
a part of that process was
I'm not very good with the internet.
the very few issues that we seem to have is when some part of that process that has been put in place to protect the customer has been circumvented.
Yes.
Somehow.
Yep.
Somehow. And again, it's rare, but there's always some piece of that points to
A contractor that knows better.
well,
I think the whole point of doing this is to have another resource for people to see, okay, this is what it is. This is how it works. Even the Google reviews. I mean, everybody looks at product reviews now.
Yeah.
And because in an IT world, in an Amazon world, you can't go feel it and touch it and hold it up and shake it and see if it's right. You got to rely on the reviews of others. So that's been a fun part of just telling people, hey, when you get these in, if you're excited about them, if we've done a good job, if you're happy, let the world know. It's you're not putting yourself at risk. Just say, hey, these were fantastic, awesome, thanks, guys. And
kudos and praise to you, because a lot of those reviews are focused on you and the service that you provide. And that is so important to me as a business owner, that we're out there and we're recognized for, it's not only the user-friendly front end that I'm such a part of, but
Right.
that white glove delivery to
Yeah.
the front door that blows people away.
Right.
Wait. Your guy is driving your truck with your stuff on it? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well,
Jason's gonna.
I was in northern Maine last week, and the guy looked at me like my head was on sideways.
Yeah.
He said, "Wait a second, you work for the company?" I said, "Yep."
Yeah.
He said, "When did you leave?" I said, "Yesterday."
Yeah. Right.
It's like, man, that's crazy.
Right.
So yeah,
And that makes me, it makes me feel like we're not just doing something different. We're doing something better.
Yeah.
We're providing something in a marketplace that has really fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
And to kind of bring that together with that buyer confidence that, the trust recession, I almost said desert again, that it's the big mega corporation that you want to trust, or
yeah,
we're a blue collar family owned business. We're raising families. We have mortgages to pay. Our suppliers all want to get paid. We have employees raising families and building their own futures. We have something at stake. We have something that we have something to lose.
we're the only shareholders.
Right. The shareholders are showing up to the door, right? So, why wouldn't you have some trust in that?
Yeah.
Hoorah, America, but, blue collar, hardworking Midwestern families here that are putting these products out that, I'm sorry, that you just don't hear a lot about anymore, and they're out there, and praise the small businesses out there that are working hard and doing right by people, because that's what we're trying to do. But I just, when we get that feedback, from, Ryan was great, or Ellie in the office was really helpful, or, Jason's the greatest guy ever. Jason is the greatest guy ever. Well, you might as well, so,
Well, it's the only opportunity they ever get to see somebody from the company.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important. I think they like it. It makes it a full circle. They trusted the process. They spent their money with us. They talked with us. They never met us. They didn't come to our showroom. And so it ties the whole thing up to me being a nice guy that can answer their questions, can shake their hand, thank them for their business, encourage them to tell their friends. So it's one of the best parts of my job is that interaction, because I do like it. Sure. And I do like pleasing those people and representing the company and everything that you've done. So cool.
Yeah. I think one more thing I want to touch on is, again, a big thing that we're working on right now that you don't always get to see because you're out there, road warrior in it. But, again, kind of back to that buyer confidence and building that up and the information that we're putting on their website. And, it's interesting how my interactions on the front end, as far as sales go, I get the same questions over and over and over again, and it's can get tedious at times, but you try and meet every customer where they're at, right?
Yeah.
And it's the best thing that you can do. It's like, all right, how do we say this one more time, or how do we put this, PJ and I work on that a lot about, where, what's the best place to put this, or, how do we make you read this 14 times before?
There's no silver bullet. It's different for everybody.
And so, I'm just so focused now on buyer confidence that, I kind of want to start to circle back on, why wouldn't you replace windows if you had that opportunity or knew you could do that, right? So, we're really trying to focus on, okay, how do we get in front of more people to say, hey, this is what you're going to be told, okay? You can decide on your own after you want to wring that salesperson neck after 3 hours at your kitchen table,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sign this. Oh, if you sign it today, I'll cut it in half. You were here and now you're here.
Right.
And and this is the price, because, these are expensive to make. So they're,
Sure.
But they're not, you talk to people too. You can vouch for this. Oh yeah, my lowest bid was $120,000. Right, right?
Yeah.
And it's legit. And and I want to say, folks that come back and those are more expensive than I thought they would be. Okay, well,
Compared to what?
well, compared to what? You need to call some people and you need to spend some time at your kitchen table with some salespeople that are forcing it down your neck, and they're like,
every once in a while somebody gets you're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
When I'm delivering, I said, well, compared to what?
Yeah.
Where else can you get these?
yeah,
What?
yeah. Do you know how much a solid piece of pine costs nowadays? right. You can't call the vinyl guy and then call the the handcrafted metal and wood guy and think those are going to be the same. But the point we're trying to make here is the other option that you're only being fed is not the only option that you have.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to bridge that gap between, informing more people about what those other options are, how we can do better, and how we can, help those customers solve those window problems without tearing them all out and starting over.
I say we just do a Super Bowl ad next year.
Super Bowl ad. Yeah. Well, you're going to have to take a pay cut for that.
For the next 5 years.
yeah. Maybe someday. I think maybe we should aspire to like HGTV.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
House Hunters or something.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where we need to go next. Yeah.
Sounds fair.
I'd want to disclose saying, folks, if you gained a new perspective on window replacement by watching this video, then we've made some progress. We can give you, the common homeowner, the tools that you need to have those options available and even do the work yourself. In later episodes, we're going to talk about how DIYer friendly we are and how to put those tools in your hands so you can save even more money. So on our next episode, we're going to dive into some common window issues that most homeowners will face,
Sure.
and how they can identify those issues and why a full replacement may not be necessary. So subscribe now to learn more about the products and the process that Fenster has to offer. Thanks.